On you.
On you.
If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself for the podcast?
Hey guys, it's Luke Shively from Dismemberment. How y'all doing?
Well, first of all, what do you do for Dismemberment?
I play guitar and I also do the vocals.
And how would you describe the music of Dismemberment?
A lot of people, they go with Black Death thrash. I think here lately we've been getting a little bit more death metal. Death thrash, I think I would call it. Just metal.
Are you most comfortable just describing Dismemberment as metal?
Yeah, I think it's easier. We nothing's really intended with us. We just kind of write, so we don't like to label it and pigeonhole ourselves and be stuck to that side of it, you know.
Let's go over the history of the band a little bit. Tell me when you guys formed and what you set out to do at the time.
That's funny. That was probably 10 years ago now, and me and Jake, my brother, the other guitar player, we went to a show and saw I think it was Skeleton Witch and Ringworm. It's like 2009, and we came home that night. It was like, we got to start a band. And from there, we just wanted to do something death metal. Like, let's call it Dismemberment. Didn't really think about it then. And found our drummer and bass player were good friends of ours. We all went to school together. And after harassing Taylor, our drummer, for a couple months, he finally came down and jammed with us. And then from there, we just, whoever had a riff, we threw it in, and it became what it was from there.
Did you know what kind of music you wanted to make when you guys decided to form a band? I mean, you mentioned Skeleton Witch, so I'm assuming that was a big influence.
Yeah, the thrash stuff, because that was kind of my gateway, like Megadeth and Arise by Sepultura. That was like a big, when I remember hearing that, and it was like, man, I want to play stuff like this. And our drummer was already pretty savvy to the metal side of things. We were all kind of posers then, and hence the name Dismemberment. We didn't know. I didn't know years later people would be like, didn't you know there's a band called Dismember? So you can take my metal card, because I did not know back then. But hey, I mean, it happens. I think it works. We're not like a total ripoff of them, but it is funny how that all worked out.
Yeah, no, it should be stated that Dismember and Dismemberment sound nothing alike. And there are plenty of bands who do sound like Dismember operating now, who formed in the last 10 years. So I think that's saying something. But expand on that idea. When you say that you guys were posers at the time, what do you mean by that?
I don't know if we were posers, but I mean, back then, this was 10 years ago, so to me, it was like the heaviest band I knew probably then was like Cannibal Corpse or Obituary at the time. And so, yeah, the thought of there being Swedish death metal and Norwegian black metal and all that, I had no idea. I just was like, I saw this band on Ace Ventura, and they're super heavy, and it all led from there. Eventually, I became wise to it all, and Taylor was always showing us. Between Taylor and Jake, they were always finding more and more metal, so I didn't really have to hunt too hard after that. They both sank their teeth in and just kept bringing it back, and we just, back in the day, before real life happens and you get jobs and have families, we used to just sit down in our practice space and listen to new metal. It was 20 years old, but to us it was new at the time. But it was cool. It was like a cool way for the band, I think, to bond back then too.
So you mentioned a lot of thrash bands and stuff like Sepultura's Arise. That made a big impression on you early on. I'm curious, why that music? Why was that so influential for you?
For me, I can't speak for the other guys on this one. For me, it was, before I got a guitar, I was really, really into skateboarding. Like, that was my all day, everyday passion. And back in the day, there was these games, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and they always had awesome soundtracks, like tons of metal bands, all kinds of different genres and good stuff. And I think that's kind of what did it for me. I started finding those albums and putting them in my little iPod or whatever it was back then, and just, yeah, skating fast and having that aggressive music. It was just such like a rush. You couldn't put on like ZZ Top and go skate down hills and jump off big stuff. You had to have something heavy to get you going. So I really gravitated toward that. Once I got a guitar, I wanted to keep that going, just learn like every Slayer song.
From the time that you guys formed, how long did it take you guys to start writing and recording your own songs?
The first day we all jammed together. When the first day Taylor finally came down, JD came with him. Me and Jake had already had a song. It was called The Condemned, and we wrote it that day, and I already had lyrics because we were trying to find a singer still at the time. We looked and looked and looked, and everybody just kind of slowly looked at me and was like, "Why don't you give it a try?" And it went from there. That took a little bit of time and just getting the cojones to want to step up and do it, because I'm like the young one in the band. So I was always the one in the background. I just wanted to write riffs. I don't want to be at the front of anything. But yeah, back then we were writing songs almost every day. We had an old fridge in the corner. We called it the refrigerator, and we'd write riff ideas all over it.
That's excellent. Had you ever sung before?
No, I was the type of dude in like school, when you get called up and you got to present your project or whatever, I would be a full-blown panic attack and sweating and mumbling and jumbling. So that was my fear, of just like, once we start playing, I gotta like talk to all these people, and I wasn't so worried about the screaming. If I was good at that, I wouldn't be worried, because I just would get in the zone with that. But it took some getting used to. But after we did the EP, the first EP, and then started playing some shows, it started to come together. I started to get a little bit more confident in it. Now I don't stress about it so much. I'm kind of found I think with the last album, I was able to kind of find my own voice, I guess, is how you would put it.
Would you say you're more comfortable filling that role now?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I really enjoy it now. It's back on you can tell too, if you listen to the first EP and listen to our last record, it's a night and day difference. I just learned how to do it and try to not imitate too many people. I mean, I'm still guilty of that. I think everybody is a little bit, but yeah, now I enjoy it. I love and hate the writing, the lyrics part. Sometimes that's very hard. Like a blank page is the most intimidating thing ever when you have no topic to go on. But now I like hunting the story down, and then when I'm recording, doing all the crazy layers and the low voice, the high voice, all that stuff that you already like to hear in your favorite metal songs.
You mentioned imitating people. Who in particular do you imitate, or do you think that you sound like, or that you try to sound like?
I think I'm guilty now. It's like so ingrained in me. Once I heard Death, I like really ran with that band for years and years and listened to especially Symbolic a lot. And I think it was on so much, my brain is just like programmed those structures and patterns and vocal patterns, riff patterns, the leads, everything. It's kind of became second nature for me, I guess, at times. So I would say definitely a lot of the stuff Chuck did, a lot of the later Death, like Individual and Symbolic and Sound of Perseverance, and definitely a lot of like the melodies and the gritty vocals that Jeff Walker would do from Carcass, and the guitar playing. We definitely pull from a lot of that. A lot of people seem to catch on to that, but it's not something that is intentional. It just kind of, whoever has the riff of the day, when we all meet up and we like it, we just run with it. We don't really set out to copy anybody. I think it's hard anymore to not copy. It's the hard part. The hardest part is just writing something that's unique. You can't help if you sound like somebody really at this point, unless you got like a flute solo or a saxophone solo over your chuggy riffs. It's gonna be hard to do anything really groundbreaking anymore, but we're okay with that. I mean, we like the music we write. It's almost like a compliment, I guess, if people want to compare us to those bands, because we do enjoy those bands.
unsure of what the future holds for us. Looking back now, I realize change is unavoidable. Living out life through memories, shifting thoughts into dreams, tracing over old steps to decide which way is best for our souls. For our consuming thoughts, loud as the flies, thinking intervening, thoughts intertwine. No turning back from the answer. Lost in confusion, my pain is your pleasure.
Your last album is called Arc of Ancients, and it came out near the end of last year. Tell me a little bit about the writing and recording of that album.
That took a bit more time than I think any of us ever expected. There's like a 5-year gap between Embrace the Dark and Arc of Ancients, but a lot of craziness was in between. But it's almost like it was a natural way of how the last album came to be. Some of those songs, half of them were probably 5 years old. We'd had those songs for a long time. I even recorded a lot of it probably 3 years prior to when it got released. So we were already like bored of those songs. That's like we've played these songs 100 times. Like, when are people going to get to hear them? And it was just like we stand by doing the DIY thing, and we really enjoy that. And so we all just took some time away, and I went to recording school and learned a lot. So it's kind of, we picked up the pieces from the recording years later and wrote a couple songs, probably 4 or 5, I think, were written pretty fresh once we started revising everything. And it really started to kind of come back together. Like, the band morale was kind of low at that point. This is probably like 2 or 3 years ago. And yeah, the mojo started flowing again. I started mixing the album, and we could finally hear the songs instead of having to sit downstairs and play them, you know? So it was cool. It sucked that it took so long, but I think we did really good with it. It doesn't, hearing it now, it feels fresh, even though I've heard the songs probably more than 1,000 times, but I think we did pretty good with it.
Do you want to talk about why there was a 5-year gap and why the band was at a low point?
After we did Embrace the Dark, I think that was 2014, we went on a tour the following year. It was our first tour for all of us, and it was with a band called Master. It was awesome, and another band called Solstice, which was a big influence on us when we were starting out. And that tour went great and did really well for us. But halfway, or I don't know, halfway, 3/4 of the way, Taylor broke his foot and kind of a freak accident. So that we had to go home, and it just kind of I don't know, threw some problems our way and made it hard to practice. He had to recover, obviously. And then it just took some time getting back into the swing of things. And then right around that time, I started filling in live for Incantation on bass. And I figured that would be like a couple show thing, and it'd just be like that was fun. But I still continue to play an Incantation. I play guitar now, and that turned into a whole lot of touring. So it kind of it pulled me away from the band, but they were really cool and supportive of it. Jake had even played with Incantation before I did. So that kind of, for probably 2 or 3 years, I was way busier. I got just kind of catapulted into touring and traveling and playing a lot of shows, which was awesome and is still very awesome. But yeah, now that there's been downtime and everybody's kind of back and had a break from everything, it's like, let's start really writing again. And that's what we're doing now.
Now, in the time, since there was a gap between when you wrote the songs and when you actually recorded the album, did the songs change at all?
Yeah, a lot of them did. The ones that were old, we touched up and added things to keep them interesting. And we liked the new stuff we were writing, so we kind of wanted to mold them to fit the vibe of these new songs that we were coming up with so quickly. I think they flow together pretty good, and they're all kind of scattered in the order on the album. So one song on there could be 5 years old, and then the next song after it's a couple months old, or a year old now probably. And I think they all flow together pretty good. You can't tell like one song's way older and outdated compared to the new ones.
How would you describe the difference between Ark of Ancients and your previous album?
I think it's just more mature. It's definitely got a raw sound, and it's like the last album I like a lot because it's totally us, aside from Andre Buzikov, who did the art, and Nate Burns, who did some artwork, and Dan Randall, who mastered it. Like everything else was all the band. We recorded it, we mixed it, we wrote it. And I really like that. I really hold that one up a little bit higher than the others. Not that I don't like those. They're fun. They're funny to go back and listen to because we were just flying by the seat of our pants, not really caring how cleaner the production was on the records at times. I think it just is a mature sound, and kind of how I think is basically a gist of where we're heading to next. We just all kind of found our spot, got our mojo back, to say.
And how would you describe this new sound, or the place that you're heading towards?
I think just I don't like to say progressive, because now it's kind of a crazy thing with our music, with metal, I should say. And yeah, I like Opeth and stuff like that. The open, big, heavy songs. I really enjoy that. We all enjoy that. But we also like just like the knuckle dragging, bare bones, like power trip kind of riffs, So we're just trying to keep a middle ground, and because I don't want to play songs. I don't want every song I play to be like 7 minutes long. That gets kind of boring. Sometimes I want to play like a 2-minute song that's just crazy riffs with just a D beat, So we're trying to just keep a good flow, keep a good variety. It's just whatever makes us happy, whatever we want to hear.
time. Creation calls to the utmost divine. The subjugation of life. Behold the construct of which we are kind. Beneath bitter frost, I look onward to the trees. Cold winds blow, whispering sweet symphonies. Since the age of mankind, these mountains never ending to the meantime must climb. The day has already begun. Darkness falls, cosmos ignite. Guided by the stars, steer you shining to the night. The unknown is nearly dying. Amidst the mountaintop, before my eyes, the treasure I seek, buried beneath the ice. According to the gods, with instant revelation, sacred stone, a legend of light. Darkness falls, cosmos ignite. Gazing at the stars, their glowing fire burns bright. Premonition on wine. Revealing prophecies, an unbending demise. The journey has just begun.
You mentioned going to school for recording. Tell me about the recording of this album.
A lot of it was done in 2016 or 2017, I want to say. And a lot of that was done by Jake. And then I went on a couple tours with Incan and saved up some money from those tours. And then it was January last year, I went to a recording workshop down in Maysville, something like that. Chillicothe, Ohio. A great school. And after a little bit of time there, that's when I decided, like, well, I'm just going to try to mix this, you know. So there's probably a 3-year gap from when it got recorded to when we finally started mixing it. But it was nice to know. It sucked waiting that long, but knowing that one of us was going to get the education to take it in our own hands was like, okay, it's worth the wait, because then we can sit here and really, we don't have to email somebody back and forth or travel somewhere. Or now we kind of have total control over how we want our stuff to sound.
And are you looking to do more recording and mixing in the future?
Yeah, I just set up Taylor's drum kit 2 or 3 days ago and got it all mic'd up and ready, and we've got a couple new tunes we're working on.
As far as recording and mixing other bands, is that something you're interested in?
Yeah, I'd really like to do that. It's especially now, it's kind of a terrible time to really want to pick up that as another avenue of work. But yeah, I recorded one of Taylor's other side projects, but nothing really super serious. I really, really enjoy the mixing side of it. Like, that's where I would like to go. I like recording, but right now I don't have all the tools of the trade that I would like to have. But mix wise, I'm pretty solid. Like, gear wise, I would say. I mean, I'm not talking myself up as how my skill is, but it's something I'd like to try. If bands even want to just send me stuff to try, and we just do like a trial run. If you don't like it, no hard feelings. I just want the practice at this point.
So do me a favor. There are a lot of terms that get thrown around. I'm fairly familiar with them, but I'm not sure exactly what they all mean. So one is producer, one is engineer, and then there's a mixer, and then there's somebody who does the master. So explain what a mixer does and explain what mastering is and why they're different.
A mixer can basically, anymore with the way technology is now, a mixer and an engineer can be the same guy. An engineer and a dude who does mastering can be the same guy. A producer can be the mixer. They can be, a lot of times it's a dude in the band, or it's just the band themselves, unless you've got like a big record label sending some guy to the studio to like oversee your stuff, kind of like Bob Rock in those Metallica movies. Like, he's a producer pretty much. Yeah, a mixer basically takes what you recorded, and it's their job to kind of make sure every instrument has their place in the frequency spectrum, so nothing's walking on each other, everything's clear, everything's audible, everything just sounds like polished and professional. And then from there, when everybody gives the sign off on that, the guy in charge of mastering basically takes it and is like the glue that really brings everything together. Now that it's all got its own little room, it's kind of like the roof over the house. And then they're what makes it like the loud version. Most of the time, if you're writing an album and a guy's sending you mixes, they'll be kind of quiet. When I'll send it to the guys in Dismemberment, I'll send them my mixes, and they're like, I can't hear it. Like, well, it's not mastered. That's why. But yeah, they glue it all together and just make sure it's ready for like the levels determined by like YouTube and all these Spotify, all these radio stations have limits to like peaks to decibels and hertz and all that crazy stuff. So it's kind of mastering, kind of a lot of work. It sounds like they kind of just get to touch it all up, but they kind of have the big important job at the end of all of it. So
a lot of mixing actually happens in the studio itself at the board, right?
Yeah, it can. At like on the fly, they can be mixing stuff like compression. Sometimes you can just record stuff straight in with compression, and then you already know you don't have to add in stuff after. I kind of like to do it at the same time because then it saves you work. If you're recording it and mixing it, it's just kind of depending on if the band has a deadline or you're just trying to get through it, so you're not taking up too much time on their end and stuff. That's something you kind of have to do if the band's cool with it, because if they're paying you, it's kind of, you don't want to look over and the engineer's just sitting there fiddling away and you're ready to record your next take, So
it sounds like mastering is specific to the release. So an album will have to be mastered one way for vinyl, but if for a digital release, or streaming or something like that, they need to take into consideration that it's going to be heavily compressed, and so it needs to be mastered a different way for that. Is that correct?
Yeah. They basically they're in charge of making sure, like, if you hear your mix and you're like, oh my god, this is the heaviest, clearest, most awesome metal stuff I've ever heard, and it sounds amazing, and then you send it to the master guy, and he does what his job is, but then it just rips away like all the dynamics and stuff that can really make or break your recording. It can go from sounding awesome from the mix to a master can really diminish it. If a lot of people just think louder is better, and that can get dangerous because then you just start to destroy like all the clarity. So that's where the master is really important. Make sure it's loud, but everything is still there and fits to the format that it's being mastered for. Like you said with vinyl, like if too much low end gets in and you just pressed a bunch of records, everybody's going to be upset when they go to play it and the needle keeps skipping all over it, Now,
given that this is your area of expertise, what would you say the best format is to listen to metal?
Ooh, I don't know if it's my expertise. I would say I know everybody likes the vinyl stuff, but I can't really say because I have like a $100 Walmart record player. I guess maybe I'm not the audiophile people may perceive me to be. I listen to I listen to a lot of like my metal when it's something that's new and I really want to listen to it and kind of pick it apart or whatever. I do it right where I'm at right now in my little home office studio, and I listen to it on my monitors. So I guess digital. But yeah, I do enjoy vinyl. I enjoy vinyl too. It does sound good. Even like the old classic. Like I got all the old Sabbath stuff, and it does sound amazing, even on my cheap little record player. But yeah, when it comes to modern metal, where the production's so good, you don't want to miss all the magic that's happening. I listen to it on my monitors.
So digital, but do you have a preference for like wave files or FLAC or any of that stuff?
Wave files most of the time. Wave is the way to go. It's I can't remember. I don't think it's compressed at all like an MP3 is, where you kind of you're squashing the life out of it. And I don't really. Some people, maybe my ears are so shot from just years of no earplugs, but like the 44.1 and the 48 hertz or whatever sample rate, a lot of people say there's a big difference between that, but the only difference I see is it just takes up more storage on my computer. So I do everything in 44.1 and I think 16-bit or 24-bit. I can't remember that, but yeah, wave is the way to go, though.
Unknown, but the satisfaction restrains you. It's not your rules, the darkest sting, containing escape and true virtue. Serenity you cast away. Make the shots as you they betray. Disordered existence, humanity lost. Constrict the mind and still remains. A still remains. Subconscious excitement, yourself you abhor. Ask yourself enough to blame. Conflicting conviction, swallowed by guilt. That strips you to that nothing. Okay. Report the shrine. Your soul, your mind, burnish and flame. Trapped, false idols have won. My spirits are shackled beneath you. The simple bliss has led you astray. The path you have chosen now defeats you. Your soul, your mind, bring forth the shrine. Awaits a life now left in ashes. You make sentence now. The dark to perdition's flame.
So this album was released by Creative Destructor Records. How did they get involved with this?
I can't remember if we reached out to them or they reached out to us. That's where Jake is the brains behind the big biz side of it all. I'm kind of a dummy with all that. It's cool because each one of us kind of has their own little role to play, so no one gets kind of stuck with too much workload. But yeah, I can't remember how the exchange happened, but Ben's super cool and Creative Destructor's been great. It was super exciting when that all happened because we'd been at that point with Arc. It's like we'd been together 10 years. It's like, man, all we want is something on ours on vinyl. That'd be awesome. We had the tapes and CDs and all that cool stuff. It's like, man, some vinyl would be awesome. And when he approached us about doing a release, and it just all kind of came together, and we were super excited to work with him. And he's done awesome promoting it. I think it's doing pretty good. I mean, we were gone so long, so that kind of hurt us. But right now, all we do is sit at home and just push the album, since that's all you can do right now.
This is usually the point where I ask bands what's next for them. Obviously, we're all under quarantine, and so there's not a lot we can do. But you did mention that you're writing. Hopefully, all this craziness will end soon. But do you guys have plans for recording or a timeline or anything like that?
Yeah. Fingers crossed this passes soon. That would really be the icing on the cake. But yeah, we're definitely taking full care of the time we have, since we're all stuck at home. We've got 4 songs, I want to say, we're aiming to release. We might do 5. I don't know if we decided yet. But yeah, we're in the final stages of that. We're going to start recording it, I think, next week. And I'm actually about to finish a mix on a song that was left out of the Arc of Ancients release. It just kind of didn't fit the flow. It's kind of like I was saying, being progressive one song and then a caveman the next. It was definitely a caveman song, and so we took it to the side, and I just finished the mix for that, and I think we're aiming to release that hopefully this month. I'm thinking, since it's just one track, I don't know if we're going to do a 7-inch. We haven't really discussed yet, but so there will be a new tune coming out very soon, and then an EP shortly to follow.
Now, what's your writing process like these days? You mentioned in the early days you had the refrigerator. How are you guys doing it nowadays?
The refrigerator, unfortunately, we retired, and then we've all became grown-ups, and we got an official whiteboard now that hangs on the wall. It's not as fun, but it's way better, more room. And yeah, we have that right in the center of the jam room, just a big whiteboard where we'll slowly churn out the riffs and structures and keep a list of like set lists for shows, whatever show we have coming up next. And one panel is just all of the songs we've ever written, just so we're all getting old. That way we can keep track of all the songs we've written. Sometimes I hear something and it's like, we wrote that? When did we write that?
How does that work with the current quarantine and social distancing rules?
I'm not gonna lie. We have a pretty good sized jam room, so I would guess we're 6 feet apart.
Oh, you guys are getting together.
We did last Saturday. It's getting a little crazy in Ohio. We live down in Southern Ohio, so that I don't know. I mean, we might start playing it safe, just because it's unfortunate now that it's like kind of ramping up here as we're about to start tracking, but it is what it is. It's better to be safe than sorry. But I don't know. I think maybe tomorrow, I think JD's going to come down at least, and we're just going to kind of get drum levels and stuff and not totally waste time, try to make the best of it. I feel fine. He feels fine. So we're going to have a couple beers and do some drumming.
The latest Dismemberment album is called Arc of Ancients. It's out now through Creator Destructor Records. Tell people how they can order this album and hear it.
It's available on iTunes, Spotify, I think Amazon, all the streaming stuff, and you can get it on our Bandcamp, dismembermentohio.bandcamp.com. It's available through Creator Destructor's web stores, their Bandcamp. Yeah, I think that's it. You can buy a bunch of stuff. We have dismemberment.net/store. That's like our main home store. We got some exclusive stuff. I think we have some vinyl left. And Creator Destructor also has some exclusive stuff like album art, long sleeve shirts, and a lot of cool stuff. I like that dynamic where there's the exclusive between the two. And but yeah, if you just want the digital, you can go to Bandcamp, Apple, pretty much anywhere anymore. It's crazy. It's so easy to get music now.
And how can people follow Dismemberment online?
Facebook, we're on there, and Instagram, Dismemberment Ohio. Twitter, I believe, is also Dismemberment Ohio. It might be like _ Dismemberment. Basically, if you search us, just put Ohio, because if you just search Dismemberment, people might come looking for you, or you might see some things on Google you don't want to see. But yeah, all that stuff. And then, yeah, my Instagram's razor_hoof. I have a Facebook page. It's like a audio engineer, musician for hire page. So if anybody's looking for riffs while they're stuck at home writing songs, shoot me a message, or you want some stuff mixed, shoot me a message.
Is there anything else you want to say?
I just want to say thanks for having me, man. That's awesome. So you're based in Malaysia? Is that?
Yeah. I'm based in Malaysia.
Oh, that's awesome.
Is from here originally.
I visited Kuala Lumpur in November last year with Incantation.
No kidding.
Yeah, we played down there.
That's right.
We visited.
Holy shit, dude! I was at that show.
I can't. Were you? Yeah, I was there. I was playing bass, and
was it last year or was it 2 years ago?
Maybe it was 2 years ago. Yeah, it was 2 years ago in November.
Yeah,
that was a great time. I can't remember if Sky something was the venue. We went to Batu Caves. That was incredible.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah, it was beautiful, man. That was a lot of fun.
Cool, man. Yeah, so the Incantation thing was a little bit dicey because technically in Malaysia, quote unquote black metal is banned.
Oh, really?
And according to the government, anything with distorted guitars and screaming is black metal. And so it was kind of up in the air whether or not, A, the show would actually go through, and B, whether or not I would actually go, because the last thing I want is to... I'm 41 years old. I don't need to spend a night in the paddy wagon or in lockup,
No
you know what I
doubt.
mean? Like, I've seen plenty of death metal shows at this point. But it was cool. The show happened without a hitch. You guys played with a bunch of local bands.
Laboratory, that was a sick band. Those dudes were great, man. I remember them. We played, I think, they joined us again in, I think, Bangkok and Singapore. They played with us on those shows, too. They're really cool dudes.
Yeah, nice guys, too. Yeah, I don't know how you felt about the sound. There was this weird thing going on with the mix where every time there was a lead... I mean, you're a sound engineer, so... I don't know if you noticed this, but every time there was a lead, it kind of blew out the rest of the sound. Did you notice that?
Yeah, it was... I remember that show specifically. It was a little weird, and yeah, something was up with the input going into the bass head. It was one of those, like, if you wiggle the cable in the head, you'd lose everything would cut out. And I remember, I can't remember his name, but he was the bass player in Laboratory. He came up and was helping me out, because it was just all chaos for the first couple songs, but we got it worked out. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Like, thank you so much for coming over to the region. We don't get a lot of touring bands, and so when a band, especially a band that's been around as long as Incantation, comes over here, it's always a big deal for us. Yeah, I got to go to school in the States for a little while, so I got to see a lot of bands. But actually, I even saw Dismemberment. I was visiting some friends. I guess it would have been 2015. And so that show you played with Master and Solstice?
Oh, yeah.
At Theatron in Brooklyn?
Oh, really? We were at that?
Yeah. Actually,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I interviewed Paul from Master at that show.
Oh, okay. I think, were you guys outside sitting at those, like, tables?
That's correct. Yeah, that's me.
I randomly remember that because we were sitting one table over eating pizza. It's like, man, look at Paul. He's a rock star.
Yeah, it was a little bit, and I hadn't been... This would have been 2015, so I'd only been doing the podcast for about 3 years at this point. And I'd only started... Because the podcast started as a way for me to promote bands from the region. In fact, Laboratory has actually been on, I think, a few times. Just because I want...
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because I just want people to know about what's happening around here in Malaysia and Singapore and Thailand and stuff like that. We've got a pretty vibrant metal scene. It's not huge, but, the band's really passionate.
Yeah, everybody's really die hard there. That's what I noticed. They were the scene that is there. They're really into it, and that's awesome.
Yeah, but then after a few years, I started branching out and interviewing bigger bands, and especially if I was overseas visiting friends, I'd try to catch a bunch of shows and see who I could interview. And Paul was nice enough to agree to an interview immediately. But then it became this intimidating thing where this guy who was one of the founding fathers of death metal agreed to be on my podcast, and so I had to get my shit together real quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can just I'll do you. I can hear his voice now. Got that gravelly like Lemmy voice.
Oh my god, dude! Like I always say, it's like if you made molasses out of Sam Elliott. That's what his voice is like.
Yeah. Yes, you nailed it.
Yeah, but that ended up being a really cool interview, and he was, he comes off as a little bit of a grump, a little bit of a curmudgeon, but he was very generous with his time, and he gave me a good interview.
Hell yeah, he's death metal grandpa.
Yeah, and so I think I do remember seeing you guys, and I remember liking you, and so it was cool.
Man, that's cool.
Yeah, and also you guys played with Hatestorm Annihilation, right?
Oh, yeah. They were on the tour too. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
you got a better memory than I do.
Well, I remember that because I hit those guys up for an interview as well, but much later. It's one of those things. That's kind of the thing about some of these shows that these tours that get put together in the States, where it's not just one great band and a bunch of opening bands. It's usually like a great mix of different bands. You've got veterans like Solstice and Master. You've got newer bands like Dismemberment and Hatestorm Annihilation. And so it's a really good mix of old and new, old school death metal, technical death metal, progressive death metal, stuff like that.
Yeah, the variety. That's what I like seeing is the tours coming through with. It's hard to do tours anymore, I think, where it's just death metal, or black metal. It just kind of gets boring. It's nice to throw some fastballs and curveballs in the mix. If
everything sorts itself out and we're back to living our normal lives in 6 months, who would you guys like to tour with?
Oh man, that's a big one. I'd like to tour with Suffocation. I just toured with them in Mexico with Incantation, and they were such cool dudes. I had a lot of fun with them, so it'd be cool to hit the road with Dismemberment and open up for those guys.
Cool. Thank you so much, Luke.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
as dust. Immortality must be earned. It must be earned.